Brad Pitt's mother, Jane Etta Pitt, has passed away at the age of 84, as first reported by TMZ. According to sources close to the family, Jane died within the last day or two. While no further details have yet been released publicly regarding the exact cause of her passing, the news has already sent waves of grief across not only her immediate family but also among those who knew her, loved her, or had even the slightest chance of crossing paths with her warm, compassionate spirit over the years. Jane Etta was more than just the mother of a world-famous actor. She was a deeply loved matriarch, a nurturing figure, a source of unwavering strength and kindness, and the type of woman who embodied gentleness and generosity in a way that felt rare and deeply authentic. Her presence filled every room she entered, not because she demanded attention, but because she radiated comfort, kindness, and the kind of maternal energy that made people feel seen, safe, and important. As news of her death spread, family members and loved ones began to open up about the immense impact Jane had on their lives, sharing heartfelt memories and tributes that painted a picture of a woman whose soul left a deep imprint on everyone she encountered. One of the most moving tributes came from her granddaughter, Brad's niece, Sydney, who took to Instagram to share a carousel of cherished photographs alongside a message that beautifully captured the depth of her love and admiration for her grandmother. In her message, Sydney wrote with profound emotion, "My sweet Grammy, Jane Etta, we were not ready for you to go yet, but knowing you are finally free to sing, dance, and paint again makes it a tad easier." The words carried the weight of heartbreak and the fragile comfort that sometimes comes with imagining a loved one at peace after a life fully lived. These weren't just sentimental words. They echoed the soul of someone who had been touched by Jane's love in the most personal and enduring ways. Sydney spoke of her grandmother's enormous heart, recalling how she poured her love into everyone and everything around her without hesitation or reserve. "If you knew Grammy, you knew she had the biggest heart. She cared deeply for everyone and everything, no questions asked." That unconditional care was one of Jane's most defining traits. She didn't just love when it was easy, she loved constantly, ferociously, and with no expectations in return. She was the type of person who remembered birthdays, who showed up when it mattered, and who paid attention to the little things because to her, those little things were everything. Sydney went on to reflect on all the life lessons and values Jane passed down. Lessons that had nothing to do with fame or achievement, and everything to do with character, integrity, faith, and compassion. "She taught me how to paint, how to be strong, how to lead with kindness, to love Jesus through everything, and to find joy in the smallest things," she wrote. Those lessons didn't just exist in the background of their relationship. They were central to the way Jane lived her life. She embodied the very things she taught. She was, in essence, a walking, breathing example of the values she held dear. What makes Jane's story so touching is that her impact wasn't just felt in the big moments, but in the deeply intimate and often overlooked ones. The small traditions, the goofy games, the laughter shared in ordinary moments. Sydney reminisced about one of those traditions, something that had clearly meant the world to her growing up: the annual special day Jane gave to each of her grandchildren before school started. "Every year before school, she gave each of us grandkids a special day, which was a whole day to do whatever we wanted, and Papa had to go along with it, though I know he secretly loved it too," she wrote with a warm sense of nostalgia that leapt off the page. Her own special days were magical, full of banana splits for breakfast, hours of board games, crafting projects, thrill rides at Silver Dollar City, and mini golf where Jane would help Sydney line up her shots while still somehow managing to beat her. These weren't grand, expensive trips or elaborate plans. They were days rooted in pure love, in attentiveness, and in the understanding that children need to feel cherished, heard, and prioritized. And Jane made sure each of her 14 grandchildren felt exactly that. But Jane wasn't just a doting grandmother, she was also strong. She could keep up with all 14 grandkids without missing a beat, as Sydney put it. She had an inner vitality that made it feel like there was nothing she couldn't do. Whether she was painting with her grandchildren, dancing in the living room, or cheering someone on from the sidelines of life, Jane was always fully present. She was the type of woman who made you feel like you mattered just by being near her. She exuded love in a way that was deeply human and almost spiritual. You didn't have to earn it, she simply gave it, and that's what made her presence so profound. Sydney's words captured the emotional weight of losing someone so central to the family's core. There was no limit to the love she gave, and everyone who met her felt it. Jane didn't have to be famous to be unforgettable. She didn't need awards or public accolades. Her legacy wasn't built on status, it was built on love, and it was felt in the way people spoke about her, in the tears shed at her passing, in the joyful stories people now cling to like life rafts in a storm of grief. In the midst of this sorrow, Sydney confessed something that many who've lost someone so pivotal can relate to: "I don't know how we move forward without her." That raw, honest truth speaks to the depth of their loss. How do you fill the void left by someone who gave so much of herself so freely? How do you keep going when it feels like an entire pillar of your emotional foundation has been pulled out from under you? Yet even in her mourning, Sydney found comfort in the belief that Jane hadn't truly left. She wrote, "But I know she's still here in every brushstroke, every kind gesture, every hummingbird." She was love in its purest form. We were truly blessed to have her to love on growing up, and I know she lives on through each of us. That idea, that love endures even after someone is gone, is what so many cling to in moments of grief. For Sydney and the rest of the Pitt family, Jane's legacy isn't a thing of the past. It's alive in every memory, in every tradition they continue, in every choice they make to lead with kindness, to serve without expecting recognition, to love without conditions. Her legacy is alive in her son Brad, who has always spoken respectfully of his upbringing and of his family's influence on his life. While he has led a life in the public eye, Jane was one of the quiet forces behind him, shaping his values and supporting him through the storms and sunshine of fame. For those outside the family who knew Jane from her time as a school counselor in Springfield, Missouri, where Brad was born, the news of her passing will also bring memories of a kind woman with a gentle presence. Former students, neighbors, church members, and friends may recall a woman who always had time to listen, who believed in the power of kindness, and who lived with a quiet, unwavering faith. Jane Etta Pitt wasn't the kind of woman who sought attention. She wasn't trying to become a celebrity by association. In fact, she largely stayed out of the public spotlight, even as her son's fame skyrocketed. But those close to the family knew that her love and her faith anchored Brad through much of his journey, especially in the early years when fame threatened to sweep everything away. She was someone he could count on. Someone whose love was never conditional. Someone who never saw him as just a movie star, but always as her son. As the days unfold and the family begins to navigate life without her, there will no doubt be many more stories shared. Some tearful, some funny, some quiet moments of remembrance that happen when no one else is watching. Grief doesn't follow a script. Crashes over us in waves, sometimes gentle, sometimes devastating. But in the case of someone like Jane Etta Pitt, that grief is intertwined with a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for having had her at all, for the memories made, for the love so freely given.